Hey, cool Wad Bros. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So glad you guys are joining me. I wanted to talk about the test server. I've been playing on it quite a bit over this weekend, as well as obviously talking with people on all the different, social medias and Discord, on Reddit, on the forums, wherever really we can, because this is such a monumental kind of undertaking for the developers, and I think it's important that we all leave our feedback as best we can, except for our console brethren out there who aren't able to play in the test server, unfortunately. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be breaking down my thoughts, going over what I think is really good, what I think is kind of rough around the edges. And I'll tell you right now, there's quite a bit that is rough around the edges, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. So let's jump into it with the biggest part of it, I suppose. At least the most important part. The whole point of the merge is the merge, right? It's combining the campaigns into one, combining all these maps together, and allowing people to kind of bring what they want onto these maps. And that really isn't bad. I don't have an issue with it. The BR system wasn't implemented in this test, so it was mostly just high tier players all dogpiling each other. Lots of King Tigers floating around, STGs, M2 carbines, the works, right? Like, PPSH is everything. But what was nice was seeing those vehicles and those weapons on other maps. Like, King Tigers actually fit really well into Normandy, and it was awesome, like, getting to use a Firefly to fight a King Tiger. Like, I don't know, maybe that kind of variety is going to wear off, and that excitement is going to wear off over time, but it was just great to see more variety outside of what I was, like, so used to and accustomed to playing Enlisted. And I'm really excited to get to use other vehicles that I wasn't really able to use in this because of the BR system not being in, like the M8 Greyhound, right? Like, I'm incredibly excited to be able to, like, do a video over using an M8 Greyhound and, like, a Daimler and, like, zooming around in Tunisia, right? Like, I think that's just going to be so much fun to goof off and play and, like, maybe, like, bring a motorcycle as well, right? Like, it's just going to be so fun to be able to goof off and do stuff like that, and you can't do that in current Enlisted. And while I agree that there's a certain charm to the campaigns, I think that having that variety and having that kind of, like, difference is just so much better than the pseudo-historical accuracy that we had before. And I think a lot of lower-level players that are saying that the uniqueness of these campaigns is dead, I think that they're just low-level players. I think that they haven't maxed out campaigns. Because my experience is that the dividing factor between Enlisted campaigns has always been the maps, right? Like, the Soviet campaigns all end up with the Soviet players using Fedorovs, PPSHs. The Germans are always using, some STG variant, right? The Allies are always using the M2 carbine and BARs. So I just never really understood that argument. I never understood that, like, oh, we're going to lose variety between these campaigns. Like, I don't think there was a lot of variety in the first place, right? The only variety was the maps. And speaking of the maps, I really thought I'd be kind of annoyed and kind of, I don't know, I thought I would balk. I don't know, is that a phrase that, like, Europeans know? Is that, like, a normal, balk is, like, that's a baseball term, I guess. Maybe you guys don't know that. I thought I would be kind of annoyed, right? It's kind of, I thought I'd be surprised by seeing, like, an IS-2 in Moscow, but I wasn't. I saw an IS-2 in Moscow, and I was in a Dicker Max, and I don't know, I wasn't really annoyed by that. I thought it was fine. I just kind of, I kind of sat down and was just like, well, these aren't really Moscow maps. They're just kind of like, it's not really like the Battle of Moscow. I just imagine it as, like, I don't know, like, generic Russian map, right? Like, oh, I'm in Russia. Okay. Like, great, I'm in Russia somewhere. I don't really care. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, like, this is 1940. Like, no, I'm just in Russia. Like, maybe it's 1943. I don't know. Like, they fought through Russia for, like, most of the war, right? So that's kind of where I landed with that. I did feel kind of weird about driving, like, a Firefly through the Pacific. I thought that was kind of weird. But hopefully that's not too big of an issue when the BR system comes out, and maybe we won't see too much of that. We'll have to see how that plays out when the time comes and when the BR system comes out. Now we're going to talk about my favorite part of the update, the perk system. Now, to give some background on me, guys, I love board games. I love little kind of nitpicky kind of, like min-maxing stuff, right? Like, I play Pathfinder, not D&D. I love I love numbers, right? I love min-maxing. I love like squeezing out the best things that you can do, right? And let me tell you, the perk system is so much fun for someone like me. Okay, the perks that were like really weak before, like stamina or like down state, like increased chance to go down, are so much stronger now because you can like put just one level into them. You can just invest a little small amount and you don't have to spend like the 15 points, the 12 points, or whatever it was before. And stronger perks have more variety too, since you can choose to heavily invest or split between your perks. Like you can choose to only take like 20% vertical recoil reduction in favor of getting like an extra reload speed, or you can like, bail on some aim speed and grab some climb speed for your assaulters and be like a little bit more versatile on certain maps, right? Like it's such a great system that feels so fun in all the right ways. Like I love being able to sit down and be like, well, this is my gunner and, like, do I really need 40% recoil reduction? Like I've already got 20%. Maybe, because it's a bar, he's going to have a BARA2, he's going to reload a lot more. Like maybe I should get reload speed. Okay, I'm going to get reload speed. And then like, oh, I have some extra points left over. Like, what do I grab? Oh, I'll grab this. Like this seems cool. Like how many points do I invest in melee damage to be able to one-shot someone with the butt of my rifle? Is that worth doing? Or maybe I should invest those in like, grenade throw range. Like there's just so many like things that you can jump into and play around with, and I'm just personally so excited. And honestly, the biggest, well, there's bigger problems, but one of the big problems that I have with this system is there's just not enough perks. I want more stuff, right? Like I want more perks, I want more stuff to mess with, because I spent so much time just messing with this system, and I really do love it. So just absolutely hats off to whoever made this. But all that being said, it's not all sunshine and daisies. There are a couple issues, like I mentioned. For one, resetting perks is way too expensive. You can see in the bottom left of these perks here, like resetting a fully perked out soldier is like 20,000 cost. Okay, it's ridiculous. It is prohibitively expensive, and it sucks when you have this awesome system where I want to be kind of like experimenting with these different soldiers and these different perk setups and things like that, and it's just like, oh, if I want to reset this guy, it costs like 20,000, which is so much. That's so many games. That's so many games. That's so many like soldiers and things like that. It's just too much. I do expect the devs to bring this cost down. It's been forwarded to them by the helpers. So I don't expect it to remain this high, but I wanted to mention it anyway, because it's important to mention. I also think the randomness for soldiers' perk points is going to be an issue down the road. In current Enlisted, it's really cheap to reroll soldiers, right? Like, it's easy to do. And the majority of classes don't really benefit from being, like, tier 3. Like, there's a couple, like, Assaulter 3s or Assaulter 4s can be useful, and obviously, like, Flamethrower 2s. But generally, you don't really care, because you only have 5 perk points and perk slots, and you can't really split stuff. But in the new Enlisted, like, those perk points, the extra perk points that, like, higher tier soldiers are going to have, are going to matter a lot more, because you can actually spend them, right? Like they can always be spent for getting more perks. And so high tier soldiers with max rolled stats are going to be so much more valuable. And there's actually going to be a really big difference between a max rolled Assaulter 3 and a minimum rolled Assaulter 3, or God forbid, a minimum rolled Assaulter 1, right? So when you also add on the problem of how much more expensive high tier soldiers are going to be, then end result is going to be a really frustrating experience that feels more like a gacha game or like an action RPG like Diablo, where I'm like trying to like roll for the right level of soldier instead of like an FPS where I just want to upgrade my guys and have like these little perks, right? I think a good solution, one that I've that the devs have been forwarded by the helpers, so shout outs obviously to the helper team for being so quick on the draw with this, but I'll mention it here too, is a system where you can reset your XP of your soldiers in exchange for like bumping up one of their perk points. So say you're missing like 2 vitality points on your Assaulter 3. Well, right now that would suck a lot, but if you play with them, if they implemented this, then like you could play with him a bunch. And then, you could reset him down to like 0, but he gets +1 to vitality. So now he has like, he has 1 more vitality point, and you could do it again. And then now he's a max rolled soldier. So that way, even if you do roll low, you can always like grind a soldier up over time and eventually reach the max. And now on to the biggest issue, vitality. Vitality perk has always been a really big problem with Enlisted and the perk system in Enlisted. I've always talked about it being a problem, but now it's even more so. You guys remember when I was saying, like, you have so many choices and there's pros, cons, decisions about what you take with your perks? That actually doesn't exist for the middle vitality tree. 35% vitality is so unbelievably powerful that there's no, it's the de facto pick, no questions asked. Okay, there's no debate, right? Like, the only extra things you're getting is if you have more than 16 vitality points, because it's just too strong. And on top of this, because the removal of the RNG system has happened, right? There's no more RNG for getting perks. We're going to be seeing vitality everywhere. Everyone is going to have vitality on their soldiers once people realize that that is the best thing to do. I think the only reason people didn't realize that before was because people didn't understand how to upgrade their soldiers properly and how to min-max a lot more with their soldiers. So we're going to have way more people doing that, which is just going to end up hurting new players who haven't had the chance to earn vitality on their soldiers yet. Personally, I'm in favor of just outright removing vitality and introducing something else that's powerful in its place. But I don't really think the devs will do that, because if they would do that, they would have done it years ago when this was a problem, right? So instead, my feedback is going to be to at least make it have levels like the other perks in the game. Like, have levels that can serve as breakpoints. So you can choose, like, okay, I'm going to take 10% extra vitality, and that's going to make me survive an SMG shot. Or maybe I take 20% more vitality, and that's going to make me survive a semi-automatic rifle shot. Or maybe like a leg shot, right? Something like that. So at least, like, you can kind of find these breakpoints, and there's a little bit more decision making that might nerf the perk a little bit and make it a little bit more of like an investment or a decision going on, and maybe bring these other perks into view a little bit more and kind of have a variety. Regardless of the change that they do, it's just exceedingly clear to me that vitality, the plus 35% vitality perk, is just kind of gimping a just beautifully crafted perk system, and I really do think it needs to be changed. All right, moving on to what is, in my opinion, the biggest issue with the entire test and this whole the whole new thing we're getting with this merge stuff. There's just too many squads. I counted, the Allied Tech Tree has 31 squads in it, which is fine, right? I think that's fine. But I have over 100 squads in my reserve. And the only reason that I can possibly imagine this to be the case is because Darkflow doesn't want to remove content from players that may have paid for it, may have customized these squads, or they just like the squads. Like, they don't want to remove the 101st Airborne because people like the 101st Airborne. Or they, more specifically, don't want to remove, say, the Italian squads from the game because people like the Italian squads, which is fair. But it's having really big problems, really big major kind of gameplay implications. Like, I spent probably 5, maybe even more minutes the other day, like, searching through all of my squads, just trying to figure out where the hell the 105 Sherman was at in my squads. Like, I didn't know what squad the 105 Sherman fit into. And once I was just sitting there, like, putting new squads in, trying them, and I'd have to, like, search through this giant list of 100 plus squads every time, and it was just ridiculous, right? And that's for the Allies. The Germans have like 150 squads. It's crazy, right? Like, it has to be cut down. Like, I realize people want to keep their squads, but there's a point where gameplay and user experience have to take priority, right? And that's, in my opinion, where we're at. I think the best way to resolve the entire problem is to remove the historical units from the squads. Like, let people just make up whatever they want their squads to be, right? Like, the Assaulter 2s don't have to be the 101st Airborne. Just let them be Assaulter 2s, and then if people want them to be the 101st Airborne, then here's a way that you can earn, like, a 101st Airborne patch that you can put on your soldiers, or, like, you can buy the 101st Airborne patch, or, you know, like, it's like an event or something like that. Like, there's just, like, better ways to handle that not only are better for Darkflow because it makes them money, but it's kind of just a better user experience because it's more interesting and unique for players, right? Like, it's just increasing the overall customization for people. So I really think that Darkflow should just kill 2 birds with 1 stone, cut down the total number of squads, and also increase the customization available to players for their squads that they're playing. Now, the minor stuff that is important and I want to mention, but isn't really as, you know, sink or swim, I suppose. Bugs are obviously present, but I think a lot of it is just kind of like, I mean, they're rebuilding the entire game from the ground up, more or less, right? So I don't really mind seeing the occasional bug. And I know that the helper team out there are doing an unbelievably good job when it comes to finding bugs and working to make Enlisted just better by forwarding those bugs. So, you know, if Euthymia or KO Fox or James or Kitsune or any of you guys out there see this video, like, from me, for whatever it means from me, you guys I know are doing an amazing job finding those bugs, and I'm sure it's not easy work. Now, moving on to the next thing, presets are still really lackluster, and I hope that changes. I know it's been forwarded to the developers to have some better presets and a better preset system, so hopefully that does make it into the final build, or at least in the close future after that. As it stands, like, presets are really just grabbing certain squads, but they don't really change what's inside the squad. So, like, if I want to swap from high tier to low tier, I have to manually change every weapon for my squad members, right? Which kind of defeats the whole purpose of the presets, right? Like, I'd prefer to be able to just click my low tier preset and it just changes all the weapons to whatever weapons they had when I saved the preset. So, like, if I have Assaulter 1s and they have grease guns because I want to play low tier, right, then I save that as my low tier preset, and then I have a high tier preset where they all have Thompsons, right? So if I click low tier, then it automatically gives them all grease guns. If I click high tier, it automatically gives them Thompsons because that's what I saved, right? Like, rather than just swapping the Assaulter 1 squad in, I want it to swap everything within it to make it better, right? To make it faster, right? Just like War Thunder does. Like, War Thunder does the exact same thing, right? It's the exact same system there. Finally, the Battle Pass rewards are much too low, in my opinion. I haven't seen many people talking about this, at least not on, like, the forums and Reddit and things like that, so hopefully this does get passed along and the developers see this. I think that they were just kind of swapped over 1-to-1. Like, a silver order is worth 5,000 silver, or 1,000 silver? No, 500. It's 500 silver, sorry. It's definitely 500 silver, I know that. Which is just, like, not great when I look at the Battle Pass, right? Because the Battle Pass has, like, 4,000 silver, which I think that they just did 1-to-1, right? Like, that's worth, like, 8 silver orders, which might have been what the Battle Pass had originally. But the problem is that they increased the cost of things, right? Like, 1 silver order used to get you 1 low-tier gun. Now, 1 silver order gets you half a low-tier gun, right? You need 2 to get a low-tier gun. And so I think that the Battle Pass should reflect that, right? Like, 4,000 silver for a Battle Pass level doesn't even get me a high tier weapon in the new system, right? Like, a new system that costs 5,000 silver. So I don't really think that's a very good reward for something that you're paying $10 for the Battle Pass. Like, bump that up maybe to, like, you know, 7,000, 8,000, maybe for the high tier ones, like 10,000, right? Like, 4,000 is okay if it's a low one, right? It's like a low reward, but the higher rewards that are kind of sprinkled out the system, I think, should be more like, you know, 10,000 and things like that. So yeah, pump those numbers up, those rookie numbers, and I think that the system will feel a lot better overall. But that's it, guys. That's really all I have to say about the test. I mean, I'm sure more things that I could talk about. There's more problems that exist, and there's more things that I'm sure the developers would love to hear my thoughts on, as well as anyone's thoughts regarding them. But there's only so much time in the video that I'm willing to put in, so I think that I've gone over the major stuff and the big things that need to be talked about. So that's where we're gonna call it. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, leave a comment down below. What are your guys' thoughts on both the things that I've talked about, and what are your big problems with the test server? Those of you that have played, those of you that have been you know, talking about it and discussing it and have seen it. Leave your thoughts down below, because I guarantee you guys the helpers are going to be down there looking around for information, as well as I'm sure the devs might be peeking around as well. So let your thoughts be known, let your opinions be known, so we can make Enlisted as great of a game as it should be and can be. But that's it again for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.